draws near and my time has come, still my soul will sing your praise unending. 10,000 years and then forevermore. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. Worship Your holy name. Worship Your holy name. Lord, I come, I confess, bowing here, I find my rest. Without You, I fall apart. You're the one that guides my heart. Lord, I need You. Oh, I need You. Every hour I need You. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need You. Where sin runs deep, Your grace is more. Where grace is found is where You are. Where You are, Lord, I am free. Holiness is Christ in me. Lord, I need You. Oh, I need You. Every hour I need You. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need You. Teach my song to rise to You. When temptation comes my way, when I cannot stand, I'll fall on You. Jesus, You're my hope and stay. Lord, I need You. Oh, I need You. Every hour I need You. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need You. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. Worship Your holy name.
everybody, and welcome. We're very, very happy, very honored that you could join us this week. I really believe in many ways the inspiration for tonight came from last week whenever we were talking to Teresa, who I invited to join us just to watch this weekend. She says, I got to get the kids to bed. So we'll see if she actually tunes
By the way,
in on
that
us.
was a fascinating conversation.
Very, very good, yeah.
She's a wicked smart woman is what I
Yes,
thought as
yes,
I watched.
yeah, she is very, kind of scary smart sometimes.
But there were moments, yeah, there were actually moments where I said, well, I'm glad I'm not in the room. Because that would be a little, but she made her points in such I mean, she wasn't over the top. She was not overbearing, and she was very smart. And you could tell when she talked about all the research and she pulled the folder out with all the tabs. Well, you can tell that she's well versed in what she's, that's the lawyer part of her, the law school part of her to make an argument. But she did. I thought it was very, very interesting.
And does incredible research. So God bless her. And hopefully we can continue a little bit more of the conversation that might help us to grow our faith here today. Let's begin. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Heavenly Father, we beg you to send your Spirit upon us tonight as we ourselves continue to be seekers, continue to be people who ask the great questions of life, not being afraid of those, but always journeying deeper, deeper, deeper into the mysteries of life and the mysteries of truth, that you are the way, the truth, and the life. And we ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. So thank you for joining us.
I don't think I'm a skeptic. Is that what you called me last week? I believe you labeled me as the skeptic.
I blame Jerry for that.
It was Jerry, and Jerry went, who, me? But no, you said in church, you talked about when you were talking about your niece about agnostics question and seek. So I said to you, well, maybe I'm agnostic, and you said you hope not. Yeah. But I think it's good to question.
Oh, so do I.
Right. So,
and especially when we were taught as kids, and people keep reminding me that we weren't supposed to question. Those days are over.
Well, they have to be, because
any questions you want.
If you're going to broaden your horizons, I always said, I don't have to agree with you, but I want to know where you come from so I can understand what you're saying. I don't have to agree with you, but
that's you plural.
I should be able to understand it. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So we're going to talk tonight about this book, which is Forming Intentional Disciples by Sherry Weddell, who you heard where? Pittsburgh? Is that right?
I heard her in Pittsburgh. And this was the game changer for me back in 2014, whenever I heard her in Pittsburgh. This changed my priesthood. This changed my life. And I was actually reading the book at the time whenever someone told me that she was there. So a bunch of us went out there to see her, and she was pretty much articulating her book. I knew whenever I left that place in Pittsburgh that my life would never be the same again because of what she had said. And some of the stuff we're going to talk about tonight is some of the stuff that she said that made a big difference in my own life.
The first two chapters of the book have a lot of stats that I don't want to spend a lot of time on, but they were pretty interesting and somewhat, I don't want to say frightening, because I don't know that frightening.
That's the word I was thinking.
Well, they're disturbing for sure.
Yeah.
For example, only 30% of Americans raised Catholic are still practicing.
And that's probably a little worse than that right now.
It probably is. This book is, I don't know when it was first
2011.
published. Okay. 10% of adults in America now identify as ex-Catholics. Again, that number has probably grown, but even at 10% of all Americans.
Yes.
I mean, that's a huge number. And only 60% of Catholics believe in a personal God. So I'm reading.
And I would say, I'm not sure that they have a relationship with a personal God. They may believe it's possible. I
agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree, but still, those were, if you frame what, and maybe don't take offense to this, but folks like you, people in the clergy, maybe a little too close to the forest to see the trees. As a church, I think there's no question the church is too close to the forest to see the trees. But when you see those kinds of numbers, that should be running up red flags everywhere.
It should be.
And I don't think it is.
Yeah, the lack of urgency, I think, in the part of the institutional church alarms me, that we're not more urgent about this stuff. And I think we should be. And I would like us to be a little bit more urgent. So I agree with you on that. For sure.
All right. She also said, and she was struck by this, she said, those that leave the Catholic Church, all caps, do not return. They go elsewhere. They stop practicing their faith altogether, which led me to think, is that the church driving them away, or is it the church not paying attention to why they're leaving?
I think in many cases, this is going to sound terrible on my part, and folks, you're welcome to jump in on any of this. And please, I don't mean to be a skeptic. And sometimes we have our staff meetings and some of our deacons, candidates, brothers and sisters, they're much more optimistic about different things than I am. And they correct me, and you're welcome to do that with all this. But is a church driving them away? I don't think a church is driving them away. I think a church is passive about the fact they're leaving.
Which is what I was, not driving, but not doing anything to try to keep them or bring them back.
Right.
Maybe not doing, you get out, but not saying, why did you leave?
We're
Please
not
come
seemingly
back.
worried about it.
That's the part that kept, as I read this, that kept coming back. Like, it's happening, and it's happening in pretty big numbers, and I don't hear anybody talking about it overall in our church.
Period. Every once in a while, but not as much as we should be. And it seems like a lot of times whenever the bishops are talking about different issues, they're talking about the base. They're talking to the base, whatever the base is in the Catholic Church these days, as opposed to trying to speak in a broader term so people in our entire culture can be able to talk about these things.
She writes a lot about Pew Research, and the Pew Research folks, they do a pretty good job. I mean, they're not a Gallup, they're not a polling organization. They usually go beyond the facade, and they go a little deeper. Now, this one I've heard forever. The largest growing religious denomination in the United States are the nuns,
right?
The non-affiliated.
Yes.
So it's not so much, they're not just leaving Catholic churches, they're leaving all organized religion.
Correct.
And I wonder, is that a reflection of the job that religions or faiths in general are doing, or is it just that people have so many other things going on in their lives, they don't have time for Christ?
I think it's more that we're in what we would call the postmodern era. The modern era pretty much was over in Europe after the First World War. I think the modern era was over in the United States after the 1950s, when the 1960s hit. And so what I mean by the postmodern era, folks, is the deconstruction of institutions that were considered untouchable, I think in the modern era are now very much touchable. I think of the Boy Scouts, for example.
Mm-hmm.
The Boy Scouts were seemingly one of the great institutions of the modern era, but look at it, like it's non-existent, I think now. The churches are any institution, even our government, even our universities, even our schools, in many ways are experiencing this deconstruction. What does it mean to educate our children now? This is a huge question that's going on in school boards and everywhere else. And so the Catholic Church has fallen victim to that too. And I think in many cases, the Catholic Church and many other institutions like it, they don't know how to respond to it.
Right.
We're not responding. We're not even reacting at this point. I think in many ways, we're just simply wide-eyed watching it happen before our very eyes.
As I told you, when Joyce and I decided to come here, yes, our son was a member here for a while, so it's like, all right, maybe that's a reason, we'll follow. We'll go to his church. We'll go to church with him, see what happens. And that was the difference, not just in you, but in the whole presentation. And I had grown up through my life in pretty regimented Catholic theology, Catholic church teaching, Catholic church.
And don't you dare question it.
That was the point. And when I came here and I thought, now, wait a minute, there's something different. And for me, it was, if I'm seeking, and I said to people when I left a parish to come here, I said, I had to go where I felt like I was being fed. And we felt like we were being fed here. Like people were saying, no, it's not. You don't have to do this because somebody says you have to do this.
Right, yeah.
We want you to do it. Okay. So, and I'm not picking on other churches. That's just, you have something here at our Mother of Sorrows that is unique. And you can see it in the reaction of the people in the pews. I mean, people here, they're invested. And they don't all agree. I guarantee you there are people in the pews every week that listen to you and go, what? But that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's the overall, the mission here, the relationship with Christ was more prevalent here than in any church community I've ever been a part of. Now, I'm old. You and I are both old. We're old school. So for many years through my youth, you didn't dare talk about anything other than this is the way you'll do it because it's the way it's always been done. Don't question it, just do it. And it's you can't just throw caution to the wind and say whatever you want to say. You can't be new age because you're
Because we're Christians.
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. But I don't think Pope Francis is trying,
I think he is too. Yes.
but he's
He's
the
a prophet.
first pope in my lifetime that I can at least relate to that came in with what I perceive to be, for a lack of a better term, a different attitude. Like the old stuff isn't working. And maybe he would look at this and say, look at where everybody's going and why are they going? We need to at least attempt to bring them back. Is that a fair assessment?
Oh yeah, and I think the age of somehow being Catholic is just going to Sunday Mass is over as well. Those days are done. We have to be involved in small groups. We have to be involved with faith formation. We have to be involved with Alpha and evangelizing. We have to be reaching out to different people outside. We have to have a mission in that regard. The days of us just simply pay, praying, and obey is over, and we need to finally bring an end to all that.
But
stuff.
it's not that we're saying that we have to change the way it operates. No, you have to find other ways to engage people.
Mhm, yeah, and here's one of them right here. This is
Yeah,
one of
I
them.
mean, this would not have happened if you didn't see it as part of the mission. And you have stressed since I've come here, and I'm sure you did it before me, before we came, your whole thing about accepting and developing a relationship with Jesus Christ. Why wouldn't that be the central focus of the church? And I don't think it is.
I don't think it is yet, but we're working on it coming along. So,
All right.
But this all started because of COVID, and now I don't see this having anything to do with COVID at all. This is part of what we do.
Yeah, but and I've told you this before, because you found a way to still reach people during COVID because they couldn't come to you, so you had to go to them, and you developed an online ministry, and it has grown because it's an easy way. Folks are in their living room or their study or their bedroom or wherever they're
Wherever they're at
watching
right now,
it.
yeah,
I
yeah.
hope they're not on their patio because they'd be freezing. But you know, this is something for them to do outside of the norm of it's Sunday morning, we got to get up and we got to go to church. Yes, you do, but the church is more than just going to that.
It's essential, but more than that. Yes.
All right. This was interesting to me. She wrote, the lion's share of Catholics who leave the church and enter the Protestant world, because more and more Catholics, when they leave, if they decide to stick with faith, they go to Protestant churches, and they would become evangelicals because they saw it as a personal acceptance of Jesus Christ, the only way to salvation, and an emphasis on bringing other people to the faith. That's been a Protestant thing, as I understood it, for a long time. That's not been a Catholic Church thing.
The Catholic Church, somewhere along the way, and I can't speak to it right now, but we lost. I think Christendom. I would say Christendom was the end of true evangelization as the evangelical church knows it and as I understand it. And when Christendom died and has been dying and is now completely dead, now comes a time to evangelize again, and we're slow on the uptake about all that as Catholics. We continually think that we can catechize people, tell them brain stuff into a life of faith, and we cannot do that. I don't think that has to be first. You have to feel like you belong first, then you begin to believe. And the charisma, the evangelizing must, once again, Pope Francis is saying this, Rainiero Cantalamessa is saying it, many bishops are starting to say this more and more. Evangelization must be the center.
Yeah, because
of our faith.
you've got to reach out and give those people a reason to
want to
believe
come,
or
yeah.
to want to come. And then I'll go into those other things that we looked about in the book. But a lot of former Catholics, according to Waddell, they said they left and they went to a Protestant church. Two reasons that they said they did so is they said, my spiritual needs were not being met, and I found a religion I liked more. I don't know about the religion I like more. I think that's subjective, and you can, you like something, you don't like something else.
That's
But
not
the
criticizing that. Yeah.
spiritual needs not being met, that to me is central to what's going on. And I don't mean it as a blanket. I'm not saying that nowhere in the Catholic Church are spiritual
Correct.
needs, because we do a pretty good job of it here. And I don't want to make it sound like I'm patting you on the
Perfect.
back,
We're not. We're
but
far from
we
it,
do
yeah.
it. We focus on that. A lot of churches do not focus.
Here's I think again. Let me go back to 2014. Whenever I read the book and I went to the talk. That was all day long, by the way. The talks that she gave. I began to realize that most Catholics are completely, totally illiterate about their faith. They don't really know it. I assumed they knew it a little bit, but when she said that statistic at 6%, I think she really says 5% of Catholics have biblical faith, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, that shocked me. And I began to realize that is absolutely true. So basically, what we've been offering people all along is this placebo Christianity of sorts, or that's what they bought into in a certain way. And because of that, they began to realize there's got to be more than this. Then they find out these other churches have these small groups. The other churches have expanded faith formation for their adults. And they went because they were looking for more.
Right, they were seeking.
And I don't blame them.
Well, and we've talked about this before. I said that, Protestants by and large do a better.
But then again, they had after evangelization, then they begin to fall off the table because they're no great catechesis at all.
But when and we've talked, you said, Bible study has not been a thing in the Catholic Church in my lifetime. My mother had a big white Bible that was in the living room.
Coffee table.
That on the coffee table that had when everybody was born, when everybody was baptized, when everybody was married. It had like a family history. And it would be open to that point to go over and look at when little Johnny made his first communion, yada, yada. But it never went any deeper than that.
Nobody cracked it open.
And then I would hear, well, we read the Bible every week at Mass. And I go, yeah, we do. We quote scripture in our readings, but we don't study the Bible as much as others do. So it doesn't surprise when you said in church 5%, whatever, the biblical, I'm thinking, I believe that because we don't talk. Well, we do a better job here, but it was, I never really read the Bible until I came here because I thought, I don't have, why do I, that's forgive me, but that's a Protestant thing. I'm not Protestant. I'm a Catholic. And
we should break down that barrier.
Well, it was like it was bad, well, they're reading the Bible, but they don't really know what's going on. Wait, no. And anyway, so she writes about, in the fall of 1993, a group of young adult friends got together to create a support group for lay Catholics. They called it the Nameless Lay Group, which I thought was really good. They talked about a vision and values statement that they called "It is normal." Right. I want to share. That's on page 60. If you want to go there,
page 60 of the book. If anybody
She says our vision.
The biggest thing is that this is what normal faith looks like, not extraordinary or weird, but normal.
But it was like, and we're going to read these. We're going to talk about them. It was like, these are the norms, but why don't I ever remember hearing anybody talk about this if this is normal? Our values. 1, it is normal for lay Catholics to have a living, growing love relationship with God. Well, it may be normal, but who talked about it? Did we?
Our faith, I think, years ago, our faith was typically abnormal. And it wasn't true because I'll bet you that over 80 to 90% of Catholics believe they can earn their salvation. That's a major heresy. I've actually heard priests say that. And it's a heresy in the Catholic Church. You cannot earn your salvation. That was our normal. This is normal.
It is normal for lay Catholics to be excited Christian activists.
Yeah, why not?
Maybe it's normal, but where are these Christian activists? Right? Yeah. It is normal for lay Catholics to be knowledgeable about their faith, the scriptures, the doctrinal and moral teachings of the church, and the history of the church. They were trying to make the way they think is normal, but it's outside the mainstream.
And here's the thing I hear from Catholics all the time. The Catholic Church teaches this, but this is what I believe. I'm thinking like, wait a minute. If you understood what it meant that the Catholic Church teaches something, you would never say something like that. Now, know this also, folks. If you disagree with 5%, 10% what the church teaches, folks, everything's up for grabs. then the reasons why you disagree with that 5% or 10% of first of all, know what the church teaches about stuff. Now, if you disagree with all that, let's face it, man, everything is up for grabs. I don't know if I believe any of this, because my criteria for not believing this 5 or 10% or 20% or whatever has to be the same criteria. Why would I believe this? Why would I believe that Jesus Christ can be present on the altar, body and soul, through the words of consecration said by a priest like me? Not that I'm trying to buck up priests. And I do not believe those words of absolution in the sacrament of reconciliation.
But-
How can I believe that?
It's okay. I hear you loud and clear, but is it wrong to question?
No, it's not. No, it is absolutely not wrong.
Do you know what I
But
mean?
if I'm
Because that's what it
seeking
sounds-
the truth,
Right. Because it sounds like when you say that, well, you don't believe. Well, I'm not sure.
I don't believe this is what the church teaches.
Your niece said that a couple
no.
of times.
But she's not a follower.
But she said she wasn't. It wasn't that she didn't. But she wasn't sure. She
wasn't
didn't
sure.
know. So to ask and to seek, there's. I mean, I think that the message that I think this program does all the time is just like it's okay to ask, because you just if you accepted it and didn't understand what it was you were accepting, that's worse than just
absolutely.
right.
Absolutely.
You should question.
But I'm talking about the person.
Not throw it out.
I
Yeah,
just don't
right.
believe that. Come on, that's lazy in my mind. It's lazy. Come on.
It is normal for lay Catholics to know what their charisms of service are and to be using them effectively in the fulfillment of their vocation or their call in life. Charisms of service. Nobody in the church talks about service.
Yeah. And this Called and Gifted, which she's the sponsor of, they have, Karen Blaisdell has had conference after conference. We have many we have many people in the parish who have taken the Called and Gifted workshops. And I think Karen's run a couple of them. She had some guest speakers in there. So we're gaining on it. I think right here with all this, here we got Steve sitting over there who has some gifts to work with technology. There he is over there doing that right there, right now. Jimmy Ortag plays drums for us at Mass. And he's just using his gift. You're just using your gift.
Right.
now.
Right. We all have gifts to share.
Use your gift.
Do you think it's fair to say that for years, for a long time anyway, the church didn't really recognize
We
our
didn't even
gift?
pay attention.
We didn't
to
pay
your
attention.
gift. You're supposed to just, now, in years, if you were really serious about this stuff, you became a nun or you became a priest. Now, I am saying today's the age of the laity. Now it's your turn to be the serious ones about it. It's your turn to be saints and not just people like me, for crying out loud. Do you do all those enough? Are there,
You want me to do more of them?
is there more of them there?
Yeah, there's more of them there, but
Okay.
I did, I have more that I have to get
Okay.
to. And I'm
I know.
running out of time. And,
Any
okay.
good ones there?
Now, wait.
Page 60.
Yeah. Okay, this one this struck me. Is it normal? It is normal for lay Catholics to know they have a vocation / mission in life, primarily in the secular world, given to them by God, sort of what we were just talking about, the gifts.
Right.
And it is normal for lay Catholics to be actively engaged in discerning and living this vocation. We may know the gifts that we have, but we don't. No one calls us to share, and we don't volunteer to share.
No,
Is that fair?
and the fact and the idea that because I'm a priest that somehow my vocation is superior to yours, nonsense, absolute nonsense. Every single person who's called, whatever I wasn't called to be married. I'm called to do this, so I'm doing it. You're called to do this, so you're doing it.
Right.
There's no level of holiness or something because of that. And I think we need to get away from that. Now, some people in my profession might think, wait a minute, I was called, by, you're called by God. And so is Jerry. Even Jerry's called by God.
Even Jerry, when he was
Yeah,
wearing,
Jerry.
what you call that? What kind of a smoking jacket was your?
Don't go there.
Sorry.
Hey, while we're going,
Go ahead.
You brought me in. I'm going to so one positive thing that Linda has to say, and thank you, Linda, because you're a troublemaker. I have to say, from my experience, churches are such as the Catholic Church that follow the liturgical calendar cover more of the Bible than many other Christian churches that
right.
pick and choose Scripture. So I thought I'd throw that positive comment.
Well, I don't disagree with that, but we don't focus. We don't study the Bible. Now, you've done small
working
groups
on
here. Well, the small groups here, which was a totally new concept when I came here. I had no idea what you guys were talking about. And I've been in some small groups that were helpful, and I've been in some small groups that I couldn't wait to get out of. And that, I mean, that's just my own personal, that's not a knock on them. It just wasn't for me. And so if I'm going to do this, I've got to want to be involved.
Sure, sure,
I
sure.
mean,
oh yeah.
We can't force people to
And
evangelize.
small groups are one of those things that you sort of work your way through, and they're not all perfect fit with everybody, so you work it around. You find one that you fit, and there you go.
But isn't it important that you try?
Yes,
and
it is,
as
yeah.
Catholics, we were never encouraged to share.
Let me ask you guys, and I'll ask you guys, all you guys here, what percentage, this is a terrible question. If you don't want to answer this, you're fine. What percentage of the parish do you think are really seeking as active seekers of the truth?
Here?
Yeah.
Oh, I think it's my impression since I've been here is it's 60 to 70%.
Okay. That's fair. What do you guys
I'd
think?
say
What do you
above
guys think?
average. I'd say
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying greater than it's greater here than it's been anywhere. Jerry.
Yeah, because I've heard a statistic that in general across the board, it's been more like 10%.
Right.
Yes, 10%.
But I
Yeah.
think
that are willing
here-
to go deeper and
Why is this parish growing as rapidly as it is?
I think Alpha's a big part of that.
Well, it is, but what is Alpha in terms of seeking and
It is a great big question mark.
but and it's part of that.
Yeah.
Like we are seekers, and I think that's why we come here. It's not the perfunctory. And I used to talk about this. I said, okay, there's the statues, there's the incense, we genuflect, we do all these things. We're quiet, we sing, forgive me, bad hymns, and we go through the motions.
Yeah.
Here, it's not so much about going through the motions, but it's not like you're forced to do anything here. So I'm seeking. I'm wanting you and Steve and Jerry.
And all you
You going to
guys.
say something? You were raising.
Yeah, Father made a comment today that hit me about Jesus dying for an hour, just for us to be here for an hour a week.
Yeah. Once a week observance, we coldly mouth your words. Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
another one. It is normal for lay Catholics to have the fellowship of other committed lay Catholics available to them to encourage, nurture, and discern as they attempt to follow Jesus. Here, yes. Church proper, no.
You know what? I think one of the greatest things I've seen in the last 8 years or whatever is you guys are friends with one another, and you know each other, and you're friends, and you hang out with each other.
I
That's
will
cool.
tell you,
That's
one
cool.
of the biggest
That's cool.
differences coming here was after Mass. You guys don't leave. I mean, I'm used to it was always, they would leave during the last song, or as soon as you gave the blessing, man, they were out the door. And it's not because anybody's saying you can't leave. They don't want to leave.
I think the
They
coolest
have
thing,
relationships
with
with
all
each
those
other. I
placards
don't know the
outside.
people behind
That's
me,
cool.
but I
Yeah.
talk to them every week. I mean, I don't know them in terms of who they are, what they do, where they live, that type of thing.
Yeah.
I just know them as brothers and sisters in the church.
Amen. Okay. Anything else you got? I'm going to get on to the
I know you want to get I was going there, and then you told me I had to get back to these.
I know. I do.
Let me just try one more here. One of the deepest convictions of evangelical culture is that every person, whether raised inside a Christian tradition or not, has a personal decision to make whether he or she will live as a disciple of Christ. Does the church, in your view, do enough to encourage discipleship?
I don't
'Cause
think
I don't
so.
think
I
we
don't think so. But the key thing is, eventually, folks, every one of us must make a personal decision about all this. And let me just throw this in. This is one of your notes. It's part of your notes. And I underline this as something I really wanted you all to hear tonight. And this is a quote from Pope Benedict.
Yep.
Who you might think this isn't something Pope Benedict, he says it a lot. His faith above all is a personal, intimate encounter with Jesus. Period. He doesn't qualify that at all. He just says to an experience his closeness, his friendship, his love. The popes have been saying this in different ways all along, but somehow it just fell off the table. I don't know why we haven't really grabbed a hold of it. Now Francis says it, and he's kind of in your face with it a little bit more. So that's good.
But we don't, as a church, as an institution. I was really, when I read that, I thought, Pope Benedict said that?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
it was
yeah.
just not the vision I had of Benedict was a deep theologian. He was a kind of an authoritarian figure. I mean, he was the boss and that. But no, it's what's in his heart. And that's what-
He was a man of faith.
he really was.
He was
And he
very
doesn't
good,
get
yes.
credit for that.
I don't think he does.
Because he was not the most friendly looking guy. I mean, he didn't speak, he didn't laugh a lot. Like, I don't think I ever saw him smile when he did
He's
any kind
German.
of a papal audience.
Very German.
All right. So the book also talks about what Sherry calls the 5 thresholds of conversion. And when I started, and I told you, I said, I thought we were going to do this in a later version of this, later episode. But anyway,
If we don't finish, that's okay too.
no, but I said, well, we got a half hour. I think we're all right. Like, thresholds of conversion, which said to me, those of us who have been Catholic, cradle Catholics, we're not seeking conversion, but we could be converted. Does that make sense to you?
We should be seeking conversion
Okay, then let's
we
start
should.
there. Why should we be seeking?
because we're not converted by and large.
But that's my point.
If
How do you know
5
if you're converted or not?
Okay, we'll go.
We're going to go
that.
through the
Now, the
thresholds.
first three of these, I think I would call pre-conversion. The fourth one, we're on the fence, and then we'll talk. We'll
All right.
push you off.
Number
So,
1, initial trust. A person is able to trust or has a positive association with Jesus Christ, the church, a Christian believer, or something identifiably Christian. Trust is not the same as active personal faith. Without some kind of bridge of trust in place, people will not move closer to God.
Okay, so the first stage of pre-evangelization, a pre-conversion, is she calls trust, which I think is a kind of not a great term in my mind, because it isn't I would see trust in God as a synonym for biblical faith. She doesn't mean that at all. I trust someone who's close to the church. That's why I go. I can't tell you how many adults I have talked to and says, "Why are you a Catholic?" Because my parents are. You're 45 years old. When are you making? When you gonna make the decision yourself? And the point that she makes in this is not an act of faith. This is a very passive thing. I go because my grandmother died, and in her deathbed, I said I'd go to church. That's the kind of thing that someone would say. And she goes on to say, most active Catholics are here. I mean, and the operative word there is active. The ones who aren't active, they're not even here. They're not even. This is, by the way, this has nothing to do with people who aren't practicing at all. So you talk about people who are practicing their faith right now. So most, she is saying, active Catholics are going to church today because I don't want to go to hell, because my grandmother thought it was a good idea that I go, and then she goes on to say at a certain point that we need to make sure that we accept them, that this is still a bridge, that somewhere along the way, if someone says to me, why are you going to church? Is because my parents made me go when I was 10 years old. I shouldn't be saying, what the hell are you doing? I should be welcoming them and accepting them and loving them in the midst of all that. I don't do a great job sometimes, but this is where active Catholics are. And so does this make sense? The first step?
Yep.
You guys okay over there? Jerry, you understand? You got it? Okay.
All
All
right.
right. Okay. very good.
Spiritual curiosity. Number 2, a person finds himself intrigued by or desiring to know more about Jesus, his life, and his teachings, or some aspect of the Christian faith. The curiosity can range from mere awareness of a new possibility to something quite intense. Are we curious enough?
Well, I don't think so. But here we are. There's a step. Now I'm at a step beyond this trust. I'm going because Grandma said I should go. And now I begin to be intrigued by Jesus a little bit. And I'd like to know a little bit more about him. Not yet open to a personal encounter, I'm not really, this is all passive. I'm like, what does this mean? I'm curious. I may watch The Chosen. I'm curious. I was talking to somebody the other day. The person hasn't darkened the church in 20 years. And all of a sudden they stumbled onto The Chosen and they started watching it, and they're curious about it and they're watching it more. That would be, now I'm not saying, I think many of you are watching The Chosen who are already have biblical faith. But I'm just like saying that for this particular person, that's what's going on. And this is essentially a passive thing, more than mere trust. Now, listen to this very interesting quote by Sherry Weedle, page 144.
Well, these are on page 129, 130. What's
Yeah,
144?
I'm moving ahead.
You're going ahead.
144.
Okay,
And here's a quote for you about 2/3 of the way down if you're at your book there.
right. Got you. Go ahead. I
She
know where you're
says-
going. I know where you're
It's italicized. She said, this is a big one first. She says, Those who don't believe in a personal relationship with God and the possibility of a relationship with that God, with a possible relationship with that God, will never be able to move beyond the threshold of curiosity. So if someone's watching now, or we have a lot of people, in the church who really they don't believe in, they don't have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, they won't move beyond curiosity.
She said there are 3 stages of curiosity: awareness, engagement, and exchange. Awareness, the moment when people become aware that there are more possibilities in life than they had imagined or experienced.
Okay.
Engagement, when the curious person takes steps on his own to pursue his curiosity by, say, making friends with a Christian, reading about Jesus, and going on. And exchange, the convert begins to experience intense curiosity, moving from merely listening and semi-convert examination of Christians and their faith to actually asking questions,
Yes.
and exchanging ideas.
We're still not at seeker yet, but yes.
But
yes,
we're starting.
Yes,
right?
we're starting.
So the curiosity is not a bad thing.
And in my notes right here, I wrote down and I underlined it right here. I said, not seeking yet, not in this Christian sense of seeking. Now, with what Teresa was talking about, as far as agnostic is concerned, with all that, I think this could be an area where there's could be a lot of seeking going on. And she goes on to say in this whole section about curiosity, most Catholics are spiritually passive. Whatever comes at me. And what I mean by that is kind of feed me, with all this. And I remember reading the book Rebuilt by the Nativity Church down in Baltimore. And they were saying, we got to get Christians off of the idea of thinking that they're consumers. They're coming into the church and they're I'm consuming what you got. I'm going to go home and do it. I have no active part in all this. I'm just consuming what you're offering. I'm completely passive, and I'm walking out the door. Anyway, so completely consumer oriented, very passive still, but beginning to be a seeker.
Okay, I'll get myself in trouble for this one, but is it those that seek sit in the front half of the pews and those?
No.
No? They're-
I think
you know what I mean? It seems like
yeah.
some people just want to come in and they kind of slide in the back and then they want to leave. And
I had one person
Jerry?
say to me, "Okay,
I
Jerry."
think I'm thinking that a lot of honest people in the back are the ones that are seeking. I'm seeking at some level.
I'm
but I
not.
don't feel
I'm
like
not saying that they're wrong for sitting in the back, but it
Right.
seems like sometimes like they're not sure.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's why
Are they
some
not
people
active?
actually.
Are they not curious?
I've heard from people back in the day when we allowed them to sit in the very back of the church.
Right.
They really didn't feel worthy. They're
I've
at a
heard
level.
that's what I've heard.
That's
Yeah,
where.
and
that's where I was
and
going.
they're
Like they're
seeking.
back there. Not that they're not seeking, but they don't feel they'll be accepted. So by
Yeah.
virtue of that, they don't seek.
Right, yeah.
Because they don't think people will pay attention
Yeah, they-
or will mock them.
Yeah.
But maybe. Now, I remember, I told the story a million times. I remember Christmas Eve, I'm going to the back. We planned for them this year to have seats up and toward the front and all around the church. Folks, they're all standing in the back vestibule, okay?
right.
They're all standing back there. And I said, folks, come on up. We got room for you up here, over here. And I hear a voice from the back says, I don't want to get that close. They wanted to stand in the back. Now, there is that. There is that.
yeah.
Now, is that fear or is that I know what I believe? I don't need you to help me decide.
No, I think it's more like, not like fear per se, like pathological fear, but I'm not getting that close to God. Hey, I'm going to church once or twice
Be
a year.
happy that I'm here.
Yeah.
Once or twice a year.
Don't be pushing me too far.
I told you about the priest at St. Benedict's one Christmas. He came out and opened the Christmas. It was midnight, and he goes, "Hey, where you been?" Because the church was packed. And the point being, they only come once or twice a year. He got in big trouble for that. But point being is like, no, that's not enough. You do your what's
But
called. the
that's all
Christmas
they're
dinner.
ready for right now, sort of.
But aren't those the ones that the church should be really focusing on reaching?
Trying, yeah, we should be.
And are we?
Probably not as much as we should be. That's for sure.
All right, another one. Spiritual openness. A person acknowledges to himself or herself and to God that he or she is open to the possibility of personal and spiritual change. It is one of the most difficult transitions for a postmodern believer. It's people who are open or simply admitting they're open to the possibility of change. They've got to decide that first.
Okay, they haven't done that yet. This is still passive. It's not trust. It's not curiosity. Is there something here with all this? There's not a commitment to change. This is what she means by postmodern. If you want to typify young folks who are postmodern in some way, they have a difficult time making commitments to things. They want to keep their options open
Right.
in certain ways. And so this is what this would be. But the person is moving along here. There's a possibility of personal change because they realize a person at this point, I think, actually says, this is going to cost me something. And I think the person in the back of the church I was talking about on Christmas Eve had said that, who I don't know who it was, was not open to any kind of personal change. They kind of knew, maybe in one sense, if I get close to this God, something's going to happen. This person with spiritual openness kind of begins to realize that. Something's going to happen if I actually choose this, but I'm still being passive. I'm open. I'm looking. I'm still letting things come at me. I'm still not actively choosing much of anything at this point.
Can I ask you, do you get people who are in that position that try to talk to you about it, or are they still not quite sure?
These were the people that will talk to me about it. Yes.
That's what it
Yeah,
is. They
will.
don't talk.
Yeah,
They will, or they
will. They will. Yeah.
but not begrudgingly, maybe, or are they?
No, they're the ones, and she tells a story in the book about this guy who goes to work and he has a friend of his who's an atheist, and the atheist makes fun of him all the time. Well, this atheist's wife dies, who he loved deeply or was very dependent on her or whatever. All of a sudden, the crisis hits. So he starts poking at this believer, and he asks questions. And he goes, I don't believe it anyway. Then he goes away. He asks more questions. So it's kind of like that. They'll kind of poke at me every once in a while with different stuff. And you answer the question. Now, these people are going to church. These people are spiritually open, these are going to church right now. Most of them are just the trust level, but these guys are going to church here they're like listening to people like me, and they're wondering what to make of me. And I oftentimes ask the question, why are these people putting up with me? Because I'm kind of pushy in some way with some of this.
No.
Yeah.
Jerry and I. What do you think, Jerry? Could you believe that? Steve, you want to chime in on that one?
But at the same time, because I know this is not it, but at the same time, I think they're there because they're just open. They're just, might buy that, might not buy that.
But you probably make it easier for them, in my experience of being here, to come and approach you. We've all been there, that there have been priests through our lives that thought, there's no way in the world. I can remember one when I was an altar server. I didn't even like looking at the guy because I thought something bad was going to happen.
There's nobody in my youth I would ever go to. Nobody.
That's my point.
Nobody.
I wasn't going to go.
Nobody.
Father Schnur, I still remember. God
Father
rest his
Anthony
soul.
Minocchio, when I was in a seminary, I went to him, and that man changed my life.
But there were
Changed my
plenty
life.
that would not have.
I would not have gone
No,
to,
you
but
wouldn't.
I went to him.
Because you thought this is just going to be a waste of my time.
yeah.
All right, we're getting near
Yes.
we're past.
We're gaining on it here.
All right, spiritual seeking. The person moves from being essentially passive to actively seeking to know the God who is calling him or her. Seekers asking, are you the one to whom I will give myself?
Right. And now we move from trust, curiosity, openness, all passive, all just taking it in, to now active. I am now a Christian seeker. Now, Teresa, and we were talking about the whole idea of asking questions, and Teresa being the seeker. But it's kind of funny. I don't know. I hope she's watching at this point. I got a lot of advice for you, Teresa, as the day has unfolded. But someone walked up to me today, who your father knows, Anthony Falvo. Anthony Falvo.
Yeah, right.
He comes up and he says, "Why don't you talk your daughter, your niece, into doing Alpha?" I said, "But she doesn't live anywhere close where it is." He says, "No, online Alpha." And I went, yeah, because that's a big seeker thing to do. And because Russ, my brother, that's where he first did Alpha, was online. So Teresa, you can do it online. But anyway, at this point, now I am actively seeking. And the phrase he uses here is dating with a purpose. Now I have, in my life as a dater, which of course my track record is not great with all that. I mean, I'm a celibate. What else could I possibly be? I dated some in high school, dated a little bit in college, and I think the second or third girl I went out with college, I got engaged to. So, but I know, yeah. So I knew whenever I was dating, and I was never great at it, anything like that. But whenever I was dating Linda with a purpose, I knew things had changed. There was something active about the relationship where we had crossed the line. You know what that's like, you guys. Am I the only one here?
Yeah.
You crossed the line.
I don't know what you're talking about. Jerry.
Cross the Rubicon.
Yeah. I have no idea. No,
Yeah.
You're on your own here, buddy.
But I knew I was dating with a purpose, and I guess she did too. But that's the thing they're having here. Now, it's a little quick story. I never forget reading back in the day with all this. I was reading Norman Vincent Peale. I'm really dating myself here with Norman Vincent Peale. He wrote a book called The Tough-Minded Optimist. He was the most optimistic guy on the planet. And he wrote in a book, and I was not a Bible reader. I'd never read the Bible at all. And all of a sudden he quotes Philippians 4:13. He quotes Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And whenever I read that, I said to myself, God, if that's true, I can do all things through Christ. In other words, I can live this more fearless life. I was filled with anxiety and everything else at that time. If that's true, I will live for you. And I feel like at that moment in my own life, I crossed the boundary and I began to become actively seeking my own spiritual life, because there's something here that I need to, there's a quest for truth. And one of the things that he says here in all of this, he says, now all of a sudden for the person, sin matters. I can now sin and I need to do something about it. So the person all of a sudden now is awakened. Why do many Catholics not go into confession? I wonder. You don't go to confession, you're in a trust level. You don't go to confession when you're in a curiosity level. You start going to confession when you're on the seeking level. And all of a sudden, sin matters. All of a sudden, I have to deal with all this stuff. Doesn't mean you have to go every week or anything like that. But you begin to struggle with grapple with your own sin. And that's one of the things they said here about this that I thought really struck me with all that.
All right, the last one, intentional discipleship. This is the decision to, quote, drop one's nets, unquote, to make a conscious commitment to follow Jesus in the midst of his church as an obedient disciple and to reorder one's life accordingly. There aren't many of us that get to intentional discipleship.
Oh, yeah.
really?
Yeah. This should be the norm. This is back to normal.
Is it the norm?
Yes, this is the norm. This is absolutely the norm. This is discipleship right here. This
No,
is
I
the
mean,
norm.
you think that most people do that?
I don't think most people do it, but I know I think a great number of people at Our Mother of Sorrows. I know people say Michaels have done it. Absolutely.
Which I think, to clarify, is more like the normal goal.
Yes.
Not the norm.
Yeah, it's not
Because
statistics-
that's
it's not-
not the norm. That's not
No,
what
no, no,
most
it's
It
not.
isn't,
No,
but it's
no.
the
It's
normal
what people
goal.
see
Yeah.
they're trying to get to,
Yes.
right?
It's the ideal state.
Yeah. And I think I'm gonna quote something else here real fast before we
Please
get off
go
here.
ahead. We got plenty of time.
But here's the quote that Sherry Weedell uses. Now you can look this up yourself, folks. Luke chapter 5, verses 1 through 11. This is the text. And by the way, interestingly, whenever Pope John Paul talks about the new discipleship, when he wrote his document on the the new millennium, back. This is the text he used. It's Peter and the disciples are on fishing, and they go fishing, and there's Jesus standing on the shore. And let me pick it up in verse 4. It says, after he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, put out into the deep water and lower your nets for a catch. Simon said in reply, Master, we've been hard at it all night long and have caught nothing, but at your command, I'll lower my nets. When they had done this, they caught a great number of fish and their nets were tearing. They signaled to their partners on the other boats to come and help them. They came and filled both boats till they were in danger of sinking. Remember in Chosen, folks, this part of what's going on in Chosen. So when Peter saw this, he fell at the knees of Jesus and said, depart from me, Lord, because I'm a sinful man. For astonishment at the catch of fish had seized him and all those who were with him. And likewise, James and John, the brothers of Zebedee, who were partners with Simon, Jesus said to Simon, don't be afraid. From now on, you're going to catch men. When they brought their boats to the shore, they left everything and they followed Jesus. That's discipleship right there. And this is making a deep, conscious decision to be a follower. Now, in this book called The Spiritual Journey by Nemec and Combs, I've shared this at a daily mass recently. They kind of summarize everything we're talking about here tonight in this way. They call this what I just shared with you, this casting your nets. They called this your first threshold. In other words, here's what they said. Prior to this threshold, we practice our faith by participating at Mass, saying the Rosary or other prayers, making the first Fridays, donating to worthy cause, performing charitable deeds, and all this, however, our primary motivation was linked to the fact that others had told us that these practices were good and meaningful. These were the things to do because significant others had said they were important. We had not yet reached the idea of a personal incorporation of these things, curiosity and trust. Then he goes on to say, but somewhere along the way, something happens. Maybe a chance encounter, a traumatic event, like death of the family, maybe a gradual awakening or a sudden turnaround. Whatever the catalyst, however long it takes, we come to a new realization. Our attitudes start changing. We begin to encounter Christ as person, wherever we become aware of a desire to foster an intimate, loving relationship with him. A genuine friendship with God is engendered. And finally, he says this. As such, immersion designates that point of our inner journey when we are consciously begin to develop a personal relationship with the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. We explicitly, consciously seek to let God become the very center of our lives. I think that corresponds to the same thing here. They correspond together. And I think this is what we are really called to do. And then the rest of the book is about how we begin to grow and begin to move after all that. So
something else from the book, when I read this, I thought, Pew researchers asked American adults a series of questions about the kind of God they believe in. Nearly a third of self-identified Catholics, not, I identify as Catholic, said they believe in an impersonal.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
I didn't believe in a personal God until I was 24 years old watching Billy Graham on television.
Well,
and I, folks, was in the seminary.
Okay. So in other words, if I don't believe in a personal God, I'm doing okay because you were in the seminary and didn't believe.
I was
so
17
how can I
to
be
20
bad
years
then?
old. I was in a seminary. I did not believe in a personal God.
Well, then why
I didn't hear about a personal God.
is the church not doing enough to convince us to seek that personal God? Or?
I don't think so. In my humble opinion,
All right,
that's why I drive you guys nuts with it. You know, it's got to sink. It's got to hit you sometime. But that's why I do that. I just keep on throwing it out there because of, somebody said like mud against the wall. Something's got to stick.
And here, this just fits right in. It's amazing. That's like you were doing a segue to this question here. Many lifelong Catholics say they've never seen personal discipleship lived overtly or talked about in their family or their parish. So, quote, it's difficult to believe in and live something that you've never heard anyone else talk about or seen anyone else live.
And my whole family never heard of it either.
And I think it's important to emphasize that the church teaches this. It's written down somewhere.
Right,
This isn't. We're not trying to copy Billy Graham or
No,
evangelicals or
good
anything.
point.
It's all there in the church. How it's never filtered down to us, I guess, is because of the messengers. But so people
Jerry,
don't think
Jerry,
that
Jerry, we
you're some
messengers.
Protestant nut, Father Mark.
Yeah.
There are a lot of great priests out there and other lively parishes and all that are trying to do this too. I mean, look at the Franciscan University.
Yeah.
Oh,
all
yeah.
this stuff
There's
going on.
plenty of, there are people out there trying
But it's part
to do
of the
this.
catechism and how many we quoted Pope Benedict, for crying out loud. So
And Francis isn't shy about talking about this stuff. It is the norm. It is the foundation of our spiritual lives.
Sherry Waddell says that a majority of Catholics don't know what a so-called normal Christianity looks like. They insist there's no reason to talk about their relationship with God except if they're in confession or spiritual direction.
Yeah.
They're not public about it.
Yeah, we got to be more that way.
And we're not encouraged, church, not we here, but we as a church, as a religion, we're not encouraged to
Look,
talk
look,
about
look
it,
at
are
those
we?
little kids with their Be Kind placards. Isn't that pretty cool? You know, even the kids are out there trying to do something, throwing that out there. That's cool.
Yeah, that was cool. There weren't enough of them, though.
I know
mean,
they ran out.
I know. I came out and I gave them money. I'm looking around and it was funny. There were people knocking other people. No, I'm kidding. But there was
I
one.
had
that-
one in my yard,
I
and
tried to
somebody
get it. They
took
were
it.
gone.
Somebody
Yeah,
took
did
it.
someone take it out of your
Yeah, they took it out
yard?
of my yard. Yeah.
Well, it's good because there was one stuck over by the school and I was going to go grab it. And I thought, no, it's there for a purpose. And I thought, well, I'll just say, I thought it was part of the display.
Yeah, there was one around the corner of my house when I left today. A house I didn't know these people. I don't know them. I know they go to our church, but it was like it's the next street down, and like,
That's
oh,
cool.
there's a sign.
That's cool.
All right, a couple more before we run out of time. A quote from the book. Existing parish culture often reinforces a spiral of silence about one's relationship with God, which seems to suggest Catholics don't know what normal is.
We do not know what
because we
normal
don't
is.
talk about it. What I mean, are we in the dark? Is it a shadowy thing that we don't want to talk about it?
I think we're afraid. I think by and large we're afraid of Jesus for some reason. We're afraid of him. No, I'll admit to you, he will unsettle your life. I'll admit to you, he
Right.
does. But it's really cool, man. I mean, it's like you will never be boring again, you know, and God will unsettle your life in such a way. He'll take you on a ride like you've never been on a ride before. And it's, you know, somebody did the image that usually back in the, you know, if I had, what do you call them, tandem bikes?
Yeah.
A tandem bike is whenever the person in the back's kind of the passive one, and you're in the front, you're in guiding.
Well, at least you're supposed to be.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
we call them divorce machines.
that's
That
what I
was
like.
Jerry. That was Jerry. That was Jerry.
Anyway, I'm sorry. To,
no, you're on your own, brother. I'm just saying.
No,
I'm not jumping on that bike with
We're
you.
supposed to flip the roll and put him in the front, and we're in the back in the tandem.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Any questions over there for us?
No, everyone's just they're just being very obedient and just taking it all in. It's
All right.
great.
Okay.
All right, one more final quote from the book. We must be convinced that all baptized will eventually be called to make a personal choice to live as a disciple of Christ amid his church. And that's when Benedict said about faith being personal. But the church itself doesn't fulfill that mission at least as often as some of us would like to
Yeah,
suggest.
and
that
we're
it-
all gonna have to make a choice. We're all called to this. We're all called to this, and it's the degree in which we choose to buy in. We're all gonna be called.
So now you're open to anyone can come to you from this point forward with, I mean, and I'm not trying to get them to bombard you, but if you've got questions, if you're seeking, ask.
Yeah. And please do that. I think I'm doing one of the summer school classes.
Which one are you
I
gonna
don't know.
do?
I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet.
You-
But I mean, any questions you guys want to do? Well, man, I'll just do it. I just did a big Q&A with the high school kids.
And what did they ask you? What
Well,
kind
it
of
was about
question?
confirmation, but it was all about confirmation. So we're asking all different aspects about
Well,
confirmation.
and that's another thing that point she makes in the book that a lot of Catholics think, you know, their kids, they go till they're confirmed and they go,
Oh, I
I'm
begged them.
done.
I begged them. Please don't do that. Please, I beg.
and they say they'll come back because they want to get married in the church or they want to have a child baptized in the church.
Well, sometimes, yeah,
It's hatched, matched, and dispatched.
yeah. We don't want that. We want it every week. We want you here all the time.
Yes, Jerry.
One thing, this is pretty good here. This is somebody that actually did the phone number thing. Are we afraid of our relationship with Jesus or afraid of what people will think about our relationship with Jesus?
Probably
and
both.
think about us.
Probably both. Probably both.
Right.
I know in my own family, I'll tell you a story about my own family sometime, not now, about me being obnoxious, you know, about, this thing happened to me. And they're looking at me like, as a matter of fact, they were worried about me psychologically. My family was, whenever I had this experience, they were worried about me. They thought I might need psychological help.
You think they still
And maybe
worry?
they still
I was
are.
thinking, did
more
they still
concerned-
worry about you?
Thinking back in my college years, I think I was more worried about my relationship with my friends and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Letting
Yeah,
go of
yeah.
that which I knew.
See,
or that
this to
which
me,
did
I was
know.
in Altoona by myself. That was huge. I could not have done this in Pittsburgh. I was in Altoona by myself. I was grappling with everything all by myself. I had no one else around.
One quick one before we leave. We see people of another faith enter the Catholic Church every year at the Easter Vigil, but it doesn't seem like we're overwhelmed by
Not
people
yet.
who
No,
want
we're
to-
not.
Why
We're
is
not.
that?
Because we're not.
Are we not reaching those folks, or are they afraid to do it, or
I don't think I think people aren't taking I think there's your placebo Christianity. I don't think people are taking
Do you
it
think a
seriously.
lot of people who enter RCIA do so because they want to, or because they've been encouraged by someone, a friend who's a Catholic, and says explore?
Maybe encouraged, but at the same time,
Do we do a good enough job though of trying to?
No, I don't think so.
We don't. And how could we do a better job?
I think we just by living our lives and living our lives in such a way that people say, I want what you got, whatever that is. I want what you got.
If we demonstrate it on a daily basis without
Yeah.
telling them, we don't have to beat them up
No,
about it,
no,
right?
no, no.
All right, we're off next week. And I'd like to tell you what we're going to do the first weekend in May, but we don't know what we're going to do the first
You can
weekend
tell
in
what we're
May.
thinking about doing.
What are we thinking about doing?
Oh, I thought about the set.
Oh, yes. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought
We might talk about this some more.
There might be something in there, but we're thinking of moving our location. Join us the first Sunday in May. We could be somewhere else, and you
Yeah.
might actually be able to see Jerry in the flesh. You're going to have to dress up, brother.
Good heavens.
You know, you're
No,
going to
no more muscle shirts.
Yeah.
no more muscle shirts, no
Yeah,
more
yeah.
smoking jackets. You're going to have
Polish
to-
smoking jacket.
Polish. That's what he called it.
Oh, jeez. don't do that. Come on now.
You said it.
No.
Anyway,
Yeah,
but
let's get off
we're
the-
thinking. No,
before the
seriously,
comments come in.
we are thinking of moving to the church to do this broadcast because we have a lot. Steve can do a lot more over there because there's bells and whistles that are already there, but in the interim, please email, tell Father. You know, if you've got topics, we keep asking for people to tell us things they want to hear about,
Yeah, and we'll keep
and we
doing what we
need to
can.
find them because our well is a little dry at the
We have a
moment.
little list that's been
Like
compiled,
folks,
so-
you guys were so fired up about hearing Teresa. If you want to hear her
We want to
again,
bring her back.
Yeah, we'll do that and talk about some of the stuff. But that's the kind of things I need to know what you're thinking, and we can do more and more stuff. This is a lot of fun whenever we get topics that you guys like.
It makes it because we don't want to talk about what we want to talk. We want to talk about what they want to talk. I think we've talked enough. We should say goodnight.
Yes, good night, everybody. Thank you for joining us once again. It's an honor to be with you. Goodbye now. We're 8:01.